The certified letter was 12 pages long, printed in Comic Sans, and faintly scented of cucumber melon lotion. On the first page, directly under the Palmetto Dunes Reserve HOA letterhead, my eye caught the line that made it twitch uncontrollably. Due to your role in willfully endangering the structural cohesion, visual harmony, and emotional well-being of this community during Hurricane Beatrice, you are hereby liable to the HOA for $17,462,913.27. By page 3, I was personally blamed for the fallen oak on Maple Circle, 3 missing pool umbrellas, a shattered garden gnome, and emotional trauma suffered by residents who apparently perceived my intact home as an act of aggression. By page 8, there was a flowchart ominously titled How Nathan Hollis Caused a Hurricane. At the bottom, looping in florid cursive, was Beverly Crandall's signature, HOA President. That was the exact moment I realized Hurricane Beatrice had been the easy part. Before the storm tried to sandblast the coast off the map, my life could generously be described as quiet. I was 37, an IT security consultant working from home in Palmetto Dunes Reserve, a gated coastal community founded on a radical idea that beige stucco and faux stone veneer could cure anxiety. I had 3 passions: peace, strong coffee, and my battered charcoal grill, which technically violated the visual adjacency guidelines, but I kept it tucked peacefully behind my fenced backyard. Then came Beverly Crandall. Beverly carried herself like someone who had never once sat in a chair not belonging to a boardroom. A recently retired regional compliance manager, owner of 3 identical pastel cardigans, and self-appointed guardian of the phrase per my last email. When she ascended HOA president, she framed it not as volunteering, but as a destiny she had long awaited. In the year before the hurricane, my interactions with her were limited to passive-aggressive notes. My trash cans lingering exactly 7 minutes past pickup, a single dandelion attempting to grow in my lawn, a patio cushion in a non-regulation shade. Minor annoyances. Nothing that prepared me for her post-storm transformation. Hurricane Beatrice hit, like a furious washing machine. Roof tiles flew, fences snapped, and palm trees bent like they'd given up entirely. When the storm passed, Palmetto Dunes Reserve woke up to 4 destroyed homes, a dozen more with serious damage. And somehow, miraculously, my house stood intact. Sure, the backyard looked like a war zone of broken branches, and one rogue kiddie pool that wasn't mine, but structurally, perfectly fine, standing proud amid the chaos. Cracked roofs and blue tarps. That was the beginning of my real problem. 2 days after the storm, Beverly showed up in front of my house wearing a neon safety vest, clipboard in hand, with a crowd of neighbors trailing behind her like a very sad parade. "We need to talk about this," she said, gesturing dramatically at my undamaged roof. My roof?" I asked, stepping onto my perfectly intact porch. "Exactly," Beverly replied, tapping her clipboard with the authority of a general addressing troops. "Your home's suspicious lack of damage is causing significant morale issues in the community. Within a week, Beverly and the HOA board had sent me 3 preliminary emotional disparity violation notices, demanded that I temporarily distress my property to match the surrounding houses, with tarps, boarded windows, and other evidence of hurricane suffering for solidarity, and even assigned me 50% responsibility for intra-community resentment triggered by perceived weather favoritism. Then it got stranger. Beverly claimed my new hurricane-rated windows had altered wind patterns, forcing the storm to bounce off my house and hit others harder. She marched engineers to my driveway without asking, photographed my walls, measured my gutters, and generally treated my property like a laboratory. Next came the rumor phase. I was suddenly the guy who hacked the hurricane, secretly colluded with insurance adjusters, and allegedly caused my neighbors' plants to die. By week 3, I had received my first fine, $750 for failure to experience reasonable damage. I ignored most of it, paying only what I had to and shoving the rest into a drawer, focusing on my actual job keeping companies from being hacked. Beverly escalated. First, she filed an insurance fraud complaint with my homeowner's insurer, claiming my intact house was impossible and that I must have staged photos or bribed an adjuster. I only discovered this when my insurance agent called, confused about the 27-page PDF she sent them titled A Pattern of Unnatural Undamagedness. The Hollis Anomaly. Next, she started entering my backyard without permission. Once when I wasn't home, once when I was neon vest, camera in hand, taking pictures of my air conditioning unit. "Ma'am, that's trespassing," I said, recording her on my phone. "I am acting under the emergency authority of the HOA," she sniffed. "We're investigating whether manipulation devices," she added, like my AC unit was a weapon of mass hurricane alteration. The final straw was a police wellness check. I sighed. Beverly called a non-emergency line, claiming I might be hoarding stolen building materials and possibly holding someone hostage, because apparently keeping blinds closed and receiving Amazon packages on schedule is suspicious. 2 officers arrived, polite but clearly embarrassed. They left shaking their heads, and I forwarded the incident number to my cousin Tori, a litigation-happy attorney specializing in HOA law and grudges. That's when it stopped being annoying suburban nonsense and became something else entirely. Tori arrived 3 days later, briefcase in hand, binder labeled Palmetto Dunes War Plan, and a smile that said, "I bill in 6-minute increments, and I am about to have fun." We started small but precise. Cease and desist letters to Beverly and the HOA board citing trespassing, defamation, harassment, and abuse of authority. The certified letters went everywhere. Copies to the county sheriff, the state insurance fraud unit, and a local news station that practically salivated at a good HOA meltdown. Public records requests revealed Beverly had been emailing city code enforcement, the county emergency management office, and even FEMA contacts, accusing me of hurricane fraud, wind manipulation, and suspicious resilience during storms. Armed with homeowner rights and Tori's legal scripts, I demanded a formal HOA meeting to review all claims and actions taken against me. State law required them to comply. When the meeting convened in the clubhouse, it looked like a courtroom had crashed a bake sale. Folding chairs, brownies, and a PowerPoint projected onto a slightly sticky wall. Beverly opened with a slide titled The Hollis Problem. Tori countered with the actual problem, this HOA. Then she began reading Beverly's emails aloud to the entire room. Messages where Beverly mused, "We must not let his home remain superior. If necessary, we can discover violations. The hurricane was supposed to level the playing field. Can we compel him to damage his own property? Lightly, of course." People shifted uncomfortably. The treasurer suddenly found his clipboard mesmerizing. 2 neighbors who had silently doubted Beverly now crossed their arms and glared. And then Tori dropped the legal hammer, civil liability, and personal financial exposure of board members. For the first time since Hurricane Beatrice, Beverly looked nervous. Karmic justice arrived via audit. In trying to get me, Beverly had submitted wildly inflated numbers to various agencies, invented structural trauma, and even made claims that suspiciously aligned with FEMA grant criteria. A state-level fraud unit, already CC'd on Tori's packet, decided to investigate Palmetto Dunes post-storm paperwork. They didn't like what they found. Investigators soon showed up at the HOA office, also known as Beverly's tastefully over-decorated dining room, and seized records. The phrase potential FEMA grant irregularities began floating around. At the next emergency HOA meeting, the board tried to appear calm. It didn't work. Residents were furious, not just about me, but about mysteriously increased hurricane reserve fees, administrative costs matching Beverly's personal purchases, and a line item simply labeled HOA President, miscellaneous. Then someone leaked the original $17 million demand letter to the local news. The story ran with a headline, "HOA blames undamaged house for hurricane, demands $17 million, now under fraud investigation." The segment showed Beverly defending her emotional damage theory while standing in front of her still-tarped house. In the background, my intact home stood proudly, with a small yard sign Tori had crafted. "This house withstood the hurricane. I'm sorry your president didn't." The clip went mildly viral. Within days, the board voted to remove Beverly as president pending investigation. Insurance reversed any suspicion about me and flagged the HOA instead. Neighbors approached to apologize and requested Tori's card. The hurricane's long tail hadn't hit my roof. It had hit the HOA. The fallout over the next months looked like this. Beverly permanently removed from the board, fined $87,500 by the state for fraudulent claims and misuse of funds, and personally sued by multiple homeowners, including me, for harassment and defamation. Her insurance refused coverage due to knowing misconduct. Beverly stood in the community center lobby when the fines and permanent removal were announced, clutching her color-coded binder like a shield. Her face went from pale pink to crimson. When the board president announced she was banned from holding any HOA position in the state for 10 years, her mouth opened but no sound came out. She simply turned, walked to her car with rigid posture, and drove away. Later, her binder was found in the clubhouse trash, pages torn and crumpled.